All right, so moving forward, the only option is not to agree with and build on Harari, but you could disagree with him. So, one way to potentially do that, I hadn't brought this one up in class last week, but Harari talks about imagined orders as a way for societies to cooperate, and as something that isn't necessarily bad, right? He says that we can't escape it, and they can be used for bad things, right? But he doesn't really say that imagined orders are a bad thing. And I was thinking that you could disagree with him, right? And so, we'd begin the essay in very much the same way. We'd start with our brief summary and our thesis. Again, we'd kind of explain his general point, and then continue with some of his examples and details. And then we could kind of transition and say that, Harari downplays the negative effects of imagined orders, and that these lead to a lot of cultural clashes in the world presently. That's not something that he really talks about, that especially in a globalized world, we have different imagined orders sort of operating, and that it ends up causing a lot of disagreements and maybe even wars. So I was thinking that was something that you could do, especially toward the end of class. Last time I was talking about China and the United States and how, I thought some of the tension in our relations comes from the fact that our imagined orders are sort of opposites. So anyway, that's one way to do it. That's definitely not the only way you could argue with Harari. And so, so you could give an example like the United States and China, and then you could explain the implications of that first example, or you could come up with another example. Obviously, there's lots. And I would encourage you, try to go with something that isn't just based on religion. Religion is a pretty easy one to do because there are a lot of wars that have, especially if you look at the Middle East, some of that has to do with, with religious differences. But digging down to kind of cultural differences, I think will make your argument stronger. Another way we could do this, Harari argues that there is no way out of the imagined order. So maybe you think there is a way out of the imagined order. I am not really sure what that way would be. Maybe, I don't know, you could talk about, for some reason, social media keeps coming to me, and how, I don't know, perhaps that could kind of be a way out in a way, because we have so many kind of different sects of people and beliefs in the world right now because of that. But that would take some fleshing out. So if you think there is a way out, you could, you could do that. Just remember that you do want to transition into your argument, right? And we'll want to encapsulate that in the thesis. So, oh, whoops, I forgot to kind of finish that. All right. So that's another potential way to do it. Let's see. So then, once we kind of figure out a little bit where we're going, that's when brainstorming the thesis becomes easier. And actually, I think that's Roman numeral 3. Sorry. We want to make a clear claim about Harari's argument, and put this toward the end of the thesis, or the end of the introduction. Remember, your thesis should never be the first sentence in your introduction, because you should have to work your way up to it, right? So it's going to be somewhere toward the end of your introduction. It doesn't necessarily have to be that last sentence, but it could be. So if I was doing one that disagreed with him, I could do something like this. While imagined orders clearly exist in society, so that hits my first 2 body paragraphs, right? If I'm doing a disagreement, Harari is incorrect in that. And then I could go on and talk about how there are serious negative ramifications, or I could go on and talk about how there is a way out of the imagined order. If I was going to build on him, I could do something like, let's see, Harari's concept of imagined orders clearly exists in societies today, and something, well, what do we say, is another example of an imagined order because, and we maybe want to get a little specific with it, right? So these are the two things that we want to make sure we do, is get specific and don't announce what our claim is. So this one, I've done an announcement. While imagined orders clearly exist in society, I will argue that Harari is incorrect because. Get rid of that, right? It's just Harari is incorrect because. So we don't want that piece in there. And I'm just gonna strike that out. That way you guys remember that we don't want that. Another one that might not be super specific might be something like, let's see, like let's say that you did one that you were building on it, and you did Harari's concept of imagined orders clearly exists in societies today, and there are more examples than he discusses. This isn't specific enough, right? So push yourself to be more specific. And then, you know, once you've kind of figured out which way you're going with that thesis, then that's when I would put the summary kind of in your outline to give yourself a starting place. So I have my practice summary. Here it is. Let's see. And so this is the practice summary we looked at in class last week. So let's see, looking here. So this is where I'm talking about the main point. And then Harari begins by discussing ancient orders such as ancient Egypt and the Roman Empire. These societies function because people agreed that a natural hierarchy should rule how their society functioned. I maybe need to change some of my wording in here. And obviously you guys will have feedback from me on these soon. So then you can use that feedback. But so I think that first part, that's kind of what I would put in the introduction. So let's just pretend like this is my rough outline. And so then I'm going to come in here and work on kind of pasting in some of this summary. Now, I don't want to use that whole giant chunk in my introduction, but I can use those pieces elsewhere in the paper. So after I get that first part done, I can go in and let's see, I think this could be my whole first body paragraph maybe. I might have to do some more explanation there. But so then this kind of explains his general point. So I could paste that in there and then continue with examples and details. So here I went ahead and I have Hammurabi's code. I still need to put in a topic sentence here. I'm kind of lacking my topic sentence, right? So something about examples, because I launch right into the details. And so then here I've kind of switched it up. So I'm putting the examples up here. So then I think here instead I'm going to explain the 3 criteria, because that's what the second part of my summary does. So let's see. And so then I've got my criteria here. All right. Oh, whoops. I don't need that to be that way yet. Oops. Let's see. Oh no. I just didn't want it to be. Gosh darn it. Hang on. All right, I'll just make it tiny again. And so here I kind of have a naturally built-in transition here, but I still think I probably need a stronger topic sentence. And that's going to kind of help my reader understand what I'm about to talk about in that paragraph. And then I think here I do need to work on explaining these details more for the paper. This one isn't quite long enough, right, to stand on its own probably as a paragraph. So I will need to go in and maybe do a little bit more work and give each of those a little bit more detail. But, you know, I think that gives me a good start for my paper. And then I can kind of, you know, I have a start on these paragraphs, and I can go in and kind of work on fleshing them out a little bit, and then I can transition into my own point and then kind of come up here and work on my thesis. So you don't have to abandon your summary. I had you write it so that you had a starting point for the paper, but don't just dump the whole summary in the top in the introduction. Think about, you know, how it fits into your paper well. If you need to reorganize it, that's fine. And then you'll also want to do probably some topic sentences and transitions in there. So as you're reading in chapter 2, we're skipping pages 40 through 44. But page 45 talks about key sentences, which are essentially topic sentences. And the author there argues for another name for them, which is key sentences. So if you prefer that, that's fine. But that will kind of walk you through some ideas with topic sentences, which is something that will be important when you discuss sources. Topic sentences help your reader know where you're going while you're discussing that source. And then cohesion and coherence, that talks about transitions, right? And in that one, they're actually using Harari as an example. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And then there's some more on introductions and conclusions. So do please take a look at those during the next week and make some marks in your book. That way I can tell that you read it. It doesn't have to be as thoroughly annotated as I would expect like the Harari article to be. So here's what we're doing for next week. And then do your best to have up to journal number 4 completed for next week too. As you go through and complete those journals, that will help you. So next week, 2 pages of the rough draft. That's what we want to have done. And then we will discuss the works cited next week too. So there you go. I think that covers just about everything. Though if you have other questions, please feel free to email me or message me through Canvas. I'm sorry that we didn't have a chance to meet this week, but I had no power over that one. I'm sure most of you are very happy we got a snow day. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed sleeping in this morning a little bit. So that said, just let me know if you all have questions. Have 2 pages ready to go in class next week. So those can be handwritten or typed. If you just have them available to access on your phone or device, that's totally fine. And then you'll have some peers look at them. We'll kind of go through a check sheet, and then I will look at all of your drafts as well and give you a little bit of feedback, and then we will get those all polished up to turn in for the 21st. As long as you get your paper in as long as you get your summary in on time tonight, you also get a free late paper coupon. So just let me know if you all have any questions, and I hope that you are having a nice, safe snow day. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye, guys.